Okay, now that you already know what are different types of actuator and what are the characteristics of actuators, we'll talk about electrical actuators. Why? Because in industry, most of the actuators that you see which are used for industrial robots are electrical actuators. Even for automation, if you see, majority of them are electrical actuators. If at all it is rotating, it is almost electrical actuators. So why is it important over there? Because pneumatics and hydraulic actuators has its inherent problems that we have seen a bit while we were discussing the classification of industrial robots also. Okay, so now we'll look more closely upon those. So electrical actuators has got its own advantages and disadvantages also. So it is very widespread available. Why it is so widely available? Because even at home you see you have electrical plugs available that has at least 220 volts and almost 15 amperes of by default current that it can supply also, and it is supplied through hydraulic electric power or a thermal power project somewhere quite far off. So it is there at your home. Even same in the industry also, you find it is very easily available. Even if it is a mobile robot, you can have a battery on board and you can have electrical actuators. Okay, but in order to have hydraulic or pneumatic, there are many other subsystems which are required to be there, which may be very difficult to have it at home, and sometimes in the industry also, because of soft floor limitation, it may be difficult. And obviously, while if it is a moving vehicle, it is really very difficult. So widespread availability is one of the reasons why we normally seek for an electrical actuator. It is lighter than fluid power, as because hydraulic fluid power or pneumatic fluid power, both of them are associated with so many other subsystems like a compressor or a hydraulic power pack, so many valves which are around so as to move it in two different directions, even sometimes to change the speed also. So you see, it is very difficult to have them on board. So even though electrical actuators are they also need some similar systems, but they are remotely placed. You see, hydroelectric power projects are very far off from your home, right? And you can have a simple wire and it can carry power to you, right? Okay, and it has a very high conversion efficiency. Electrical actuators have very good power conversion efficiency. Right from the manufacturing to usage, at different stages you have different losses which are always there. So but in case of electrical actuators, those accumulated loss is little less as compared to hydraulic or pneumatic one. No pollution in the working environment. That means even if electrical actuator has got some generator or a thermal power plant which are situated quite far off, uh, obviously you don't get to see those smokes, those noise in your working environment, right? Where people are working all around, you cannot afford to have that much of noise or that much of smoke or any sort of pollution which are associated with them. Whereas in case of at least pneumatic, you need to have a compressor nearby. Nearby is also very important. And then when you have a compressor, definitely it creates a lot of noise. Okay, so that is one of the noise problem which is there. If it is a if it is hydraulic power pack also, then also you have so many associated noise due to the valves and running uh, pump also. There are noise, at least noise problem is always there associated with fluid power packs. Okay, accuracy and repeatability are normally better if you compare similar costed electrical and pneumatic or hydraulic actuators. Okay, so and relatively quiet and clean. You can afford to have an electrical motors which are almost noiseless. They are safe to be in medical subspaces also. They are clean. Hydraulics can have leakage of fluid and it can drip if it is not taken care of properly, right? and easy to maintain and repair because the know-how is very readily available right at the next to your home, maybe in your market nearby. You find people who are specialized. There are skills which are widespread and people know how to repair it quite easily. Know-how is easily available because it is popular, it is easily available. So most of the electrical things, electrical gadgets, even household appliances, they have such motors, so they know, people know how to maintain such motors. Got it? So that is the reason electrical actuators are very popular, and they are easy to maintain and repair as well. The drive system is well suited electronically. Over in case of industrial robot, you see, it is electrically actuated. Its control system is electrically actuated. You saw last day that it was a standard PC which was there inside a hardware controller. So whatever it communicates through electrical signals, right? So you don't need to transform this electrical signal to some other form. Let us say if it is a pneumatic system, you need to have a electronic to pneumatic converter in order to run that motor, control its velocity, acceleration, forces, right? So for everything you need to have some sort of conversion. And even if it is a sensor, if it is a sensor, if it is a pneumatic sensor, you need to have a pneumatic to electrical signal in order to take the feedback and process it for controllers, in the controllers. Okay. So that conversion kills so much of resources, it takes spaces, and it is not convenient. Okay. So in case of electrical actuators, it is very convenient. Everything is in electronic and electrical way, and it can easily be communicated well and compacted together in a single unit. Got it? And in case there are some disadvantages, yes, there are few, yes. Electrical shock hazard, that is always there. Sometimes in AC servo motors, you can see very high voltages which are there within that motors because it uses AC to DC and DC to AC converters. So those DC voltages can go as high as 720 volts, which are really very dangerous. But yes, because it is enclosed properly, proper safeties are taken, it can be taken care of very easily. Even hydraulic power packs, those pipes, they carry huge pressures. This high pressure lines are very dangerous. So similar hazards are also there in case of pneumatic or hydraulic system as well. So shock hazard is there, but yes, it can be taken care of easily. May cause overheating on long runs. What we see, electrical actuators, if it runs for quite longer period of time, it gets heated up. But yes, you can always have fins, you can have cooling arrangements properly in place, then yes, it is not that big of a problem. Even pneumatic and hydraulic compressors, they get overheated if it is running for quite longer time. This should not be a problem now. Fire hazard, yes, it is there because if you will see now that yes, DC motors, they have some commutators which continuously creates sparks when make and break thing happen. Those sparks cannot be used in inflammable environments. And let us say if it is a painting environment, painting robot, yes, it is a difficulty. Again, it can be enclosed properly and taken care of, but yes, it is hazard. But that hazard, similar hazard is there in case of hydraulic power pack because that carries oil which may be inflammable. So similar disadvantages are there, but these things, these disadvantages are not that big of a problem so as to exclude this type of system, provided these advantages which are already there. So many advantages which are there. Okay. Coming to next, DC actuators. We'll stick our discussion now to DC actuators. I'll tell you, because electrical actuators are more popular, I would say yes. Hydraulic and pneumatic actuators are not that popular. That is not the case. If it is a huge powered robots, yes, you can use hydraulic power actuators also. Like in case of Steward platform, which is controlling huge telescope or maybe simulators, they use it, yes. Okay. So coming to DC actuator, there are two different types of electrical actuators primarily. First is DC motors, other one is AC motors. We have seen that in earlier discussion also. So let us come to DC motors. Okay, what are the basic principle of operation? The conductor, okay, let me recall the Fleming's left hand rule that you might have gone through in your school days. What it says, if you have a conductor which is carrying current, the central finger denotes C, that is central finger, that is for current, denoted here with I in green color. Okay, and you have a field which is denoted by this forefinger, that is B, blue in color over here. So if there exists a field and there is a conductor which is carrying a current, if these two are orthogonal to each other in mutually perpendicular third direction, you will have a force which is acting on this conductor which is carrying the current. So this is basic high school physics that you might have gone through definitely. So that is the first thing which is used in when we make any motor like DC motor. It is common to all motors, not just DC motor. So now we will discuss different components which make such motor. Later on we will also discuss how it actually works and what if a professional DC motor comes to you, how will it look like inside. We will see inside also. Okay. So different components that make a DC motor is armature. First of all, that is an armature. Armature looks like this. What all things which are there? It basically has current conductors. Current conductors are shown here, is visible here as copper windings. These copper windings are laminated wires which are not touched one upon the other, rather they are compactly wounded so as to create electromagnets. It is similar to electromagnets. Okay, so if you supply current to them, it will create magnets, small magnets. Okay, so this armature rotor carries current. Those are conductors. They will act like conductors, as you have just seen in case of Fleming's left hand rule. You saw C, that is for current carrying conductor should be there. So that carrying conductor will be here through this. Then comes next big thing, that is stator. Stator, how does it look like? Again I will show you. Stator, normally it looks like this. It is nothing but two huge huge electromagnets. Sometimes it is permanent magnet DC motors. In case of permanent magnet DC motors, they are high powered permanent magnets also. Okay, so that creates the field, electrical lines of force that I was talking about, magnetic lines of force. Okay, so that will be B, that is the field. So that conductor will lie somewhere inside. I will show you the section also. First let me show you what all different components that make it. So this was stator. Another stator could be arranged like this within the circular chamber, so that everything is enclosed within the motor itself and it creates lines of forces inside. Okay, so this is how a stator looks like. And then another component, very important component, are the brushes and commutators. What it does basically? So your conductor carries current, and you have field. It creates thrust in that particular conductor because of this field. Okay, let us say if the current is reversed, you will see force in the opposite direction. So that current reversal thing can be done using commutators. Why is it required? You will get to know very soon. Okay, so and if at all current has to be changed in a particular rotating commutator, you need to have contact with this, sometimes with this. So it cannot be permanently soldered over here. So that is done by using brushes. brushes, they maintain contact with the rotating shaft. I will show you this armature once again, you will see that over here. Okay, so this was there. So this particular commutator is here. You see strips of different copper, that is commutator. So carbon brushes, they attach to this, they slip on this, and they can change conductor wise. One by one it can carry current to the supply current to different conductors. Okay. And how does the brush look like? Brushes, they look like this. This is carbon brush. Because it is continuously in friction, so they get wear out, worn out with time. So time to time you have to replace this. So that is why they are made like this. It can be arranged something like this. It can be arranged um, perpendicular to the rotating shaft. So that is why these are some fixtures, how it is arranged, and these are some springs which will push it from the top, so that it constantly maintains the contact against the rotating commutator. So that is why it is like this. When assembled, it will look something like this. So you have springs that will push it inside those carbon brushes, and inside you will have something called commutator. Okay, so the rotating commutator will have contact one by one to these brushes. Got it? So these are different parts which make up your DC motor assembly, right, that goes inside. Okay. So now that you know basic components, you have seen how Fleming's left hand rule is used to create motion to that conductor. If all the conductors are lying fixed to the rotating shaft, it will try to tend to rotate that particular shaft. Okay. So let us say okay, before I go further, I will show you standard DC motor which are there in toy. I will open up that one by one, and I will show you what all components, how does it look like, how they are arranged inside the DC motor. Got it? So let me see, maybe very popular one. If you just browse through internet and just type brush DC motor, you will see something very much similar to this, which is very popular. So if I open this type of motor, what I see, this is one of the website which shows it in quite detail. That's why I have chosen this. Brush DC motor, size something around 3 volt it says, and 17k rpm, that is revolutions per minute. What all parameter? It is a Pololu, some make of the motor, DC without kind of motor, without gearbox. Yes, it doesn't have a gearbox attached because they rotate at high rpm. Sometimes they use gearbox to reduce the speed also. Supply voltage is 3 to 6 volt. Maximum current that it can carry is 7.2 ampere, right, and 330 milliamp is the operating current. So stall current, that may be stall current when you completely stop the shaft, that is the maximum current which can flow through it. Yes, so these are some of the parameters. It looks like this. Now you must have remembered how does it look like your toy. If you have opened it up sometime, you might have seen something like this. Got it? Okay, I will stop this and I will continue further. I will try to open this now. I will try to open it up now. So, okay, this one. So, let us say just now the motor, the type of motor you have seen, it is shown in CAD model over here, that I will try to unassemble now. I will show you what all things are there and how does it look like inside. So, this is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. Transparent surfaces are there. Let me just open up the covers now. I will just open up the front cover, I will also remove the pinion which is here, that is to connect the reduction gear if it is there to reduce the speed and increase the torque. The back cover also I will open up now. This back cover I have opened. So what you see, you have just seen the magnets, how it is arranged. It is arranged like this, so that you see, you will have lines of forces which is horizontal like this. If you see from the front, they are like this. Okay. So again, let me remove this bush. This bush I will remove. This one also. This also I have removed. I will also remove the support which is there. This is to support the external cage which was there earlier. So now it is almost what we want. So what all components you can identify? You can just see, this is the rod which is transmitting power. This magnetic field is trying to turn this shaft, and that is transmitted outside to the pinion, and further on this is creating, these two magnets are creating the field. Okay, so these two are brushes. Over here it is not a brush, basically this one is not a brush, it is just a spring like structure made up of copper which is making contact with two of the poles, okay, the two of the commutator poles. So let me just remove this one of these at least. If I remove this commutator, this one, I have removed it, I have removed the other one also, so that you can see the commutator. So you see, this type of motor has three different coils. Definitely it is arranged in a similar, in a different way, but yes, idea is same. This will create one pole, this will create another pole, this will create third pole. Okay, so a single wire is always grounded, one of the wire is always grounded, the other one keeps changing. You connect this or you connect this, you connect one by one, change the connection and energize one of the pole at a time, and that creates the motion, got it. So let me remove the magnets also now. I will remove one of the magnet, this one also I am removing. Now you can see how this armature is made. It is laminated plates one over the other, so that you see straight lines of force, magnetic lines of force. That is why it is laminated cores, one over the other is stacked together and armature is made. These are soft iron cores. Okay. So now let us say these are the coil bunches. These are the coil bunches. So this is the one, this is another one, and you also have the third one. These are the coil bunches which are connected. So that is the magnetic coil, and that is connected to these commutators. So now you understood how a motor would look like inside if it is open, and basic functioning we will talk about this in much detail now. Okay. So I am stopping this one now, this CAD model. I will go back to my earlier thing. Okay. So coming to here, what you have seen just now, the arrangement, if you grossly can see, it was something like this. Let us say one of the conductor which is shown here is like this. Relate this to Fleming's rule, this one. What all things you see, if this conductor has current passing through like this, so if the field is like this, north to south, field is shown in blue color, okay, and current is shown in green color. So this will create a force in this conductor, it will create an upward force, and in this conductor it will create a downward force. Both the forces will create a couple which creates the torque about this axis. So that is the torque which is seen by the shaft, rotating shaft, that is the armature end. Got it? So rotor torque that one can see is equal to 2F into R sine sigma, because this angle, this rotor, this particular angle of this is changing. What is changing? This area vector, this is n, which is perpendicular to this face of this area where the coil lies completely. So perpendicular to that is n is the unit normal perpendicular to the face of the coil. So this is sigma, which is made with the field direction. This is sigma. So what is the torque? You see, it is F into R sine sigma. What is F? F is basically force felt due to the magnetic field B. IA is the current flowing through that conductor. L is the length of that conductor. I hope you remember this high school physics. Force is equal to field BIL, if you remember this formula. So F is that force. F is creating a couple, that is 2 times of F into R sine of sigma. Why is this sigma here? Because when it becomes completely perpendicular, you see it is the maximum force that will come. If sigma is perpendicular, this lies completely inside the field, and that is the maximum force which is coming onto this conductor. So you see, this will create a varying force, sinusoidally varying force. In order to kill this particular problem, what you do normally, you have multiple similar coils, as you have seen just now, how your armature was constructed. I will show you once again. You see, multiple conductors are there, multiple commutators are there. So one by one, you have to energize the one which is exactly at the place where you see the maximum torque. Got it? So that is why you have multiple commutators which keep on changing the conductor one by one. So one which is exactly in the field, not off the field, are always energized, and that creates the torque, and it is always almost maximum all the time. And also all these coils, you see there are maximum number of coils which are possible. So more is the number of coils, more uniform is the torque, because you have seen just now this torque is varying, So if you have more number of conductors, the torque will be more uniform. That is the reason, if you pick up that small hobby motor and you run it, you will feel the vibration because of that varying torque. Got it? So I hope this till here that physics is quite clear. Physics is very clear. So what were the terms that I have used is the sigma, that is the angle, torque angle, angle between the flux vector B and of the magnetic field, and the unit normal to the plane of the coil, that is N. R is the radius of the rotor, radius of the B is the magnetic flux, Ia is the current flowing through the conductor, L is the length of the conductor. Now I hope you remember total your high school physics now. So that is how this works. Let me go a little ahead now. So now you see, if you want to control the torque of a DC motor, you can directly control the current. Why? Because torque, rest everything is constant. Torque is equal to 2Fr sine sigma. What is F? F is equal to BIAL. Field B is always constant. Why? Because these are permanent magnets. Even if it is a shunt or a different type of motor, if it is an electromagnet, that current is always maintained constant, so that what you see is a constant magnetic field all the time. So B is constant, length of the conductor is constant, this armature rotor windings are not going to change with time, so that remains constant. 2 times R, that is diameter of this armature winding, is also constant. Okay, so everything is constant. So what changes with time is only the current. Current can be changed externally. if you change the current, torque will change proportionally because everything is constant. So torque is proportional to the current flowing through the conductor. So there may be application where, let us say, I'll show you this one. You want to maintain a constant force against the wall or some surface, let us say you are grinding that surface. So you have to maintain constantly at say 20 Newton. Okay. So for that 20 Newton, you have to have constant torques which are coming onto these joints. So that torque is to be maintained so as to maintain the end effector force, tool force. So that is one of the application where you may require to control the current flowing through that conductor, armature to be more specific. Got it? So this is one of the application where this formula finds its application. Another one, similar one, is in case of DC motor, higher is the voltage, higher is the speed of the DC motor. That is one very good thing about DC motor. Higher is the EMF, higher is the speed, applied voltage, and then higher is the current, higher is the torque. So you see, you can change both. You can change the speed, you can change the torque, which can be felt at, if you stop that, that is the maximum torque that you can feel. Keep on increasing the current, you will keep seeing that. So, and one more thing, speed and this torque, they are interrelated too, because the power input to the motor is constant. Tau um, is tau into omega, that is the power is constant. So if you increase one, other one will decrease, but definitely not in a straight line, it decreases. So this is a relation which is quite commonly found in data sheet of in any DC motor. So that is what I will discuss now. What you can combinedly say that tau is equal to Km into Ia. Rest thing, everything was constant. If you sum them all together, uh, so that can be combinedly given as Km is equal to a motor constant, which is not going to change with time. And Ia over here is the armature coil current. Armature coil current. So Km into Ia is torque. Reversing the polarity. Why? Reversing the polarity changes the direction of rotation. You see, I will again come back to this old figure. If you reverse the current flowing through any of the conductor, so what it will do? It will simply change the direction of force that is coming on this conductor. Is it not? So that creates a reverse torque. So reversing the polarity immediately can change the direction of this shaft, rotating shaft. So it is so easy now. You can control the direction, you can control the speed, you can control the torque. So you can control everything now. Now we need to discuss more on this particular figure. What it says? It says speed and torque, they are related like this. If you increase the speed, if you go higher speed, you see less torque that is going to come onto the shaft. If you increase the speed, torque will be less, and vice versa. If you increase the torque, speed will be less. So this is a normal relation. Obviously it should not be like this. How it is, I will show you directly on the data sheet now. What all things it says? This is basically the no load speed. This is no load speed. When there is no external load attached to the motor, it is free run motor, then in that case, that is the no load speed. Got it? And this is the stall torque. What does it mean? If you stop the rotor, if you hold it thoroughly, if you tighten it somewhere or you freeze it totally, so if you at all flow the current through the conductors, so this is the maximum torque that motor can see. Definitely this is not good for the motor. In this case, there is a high amount of current that flows through the conductor and motor gets heated up. So this is not suggested region of working. So this red zone is where you should not go. Maximum mechanical power you see over here, that also falls little under this region only. So you should not use in this rating. Continuous operation region is this much. where your load should vary between this to this, 0 to this, got it, and speed will accordingly change, got it. So this is one of the very important characteristics which is given in the data sheet also for any electrical DC motor. So I'll go to now this type of motor data sheet. Okay, so this is your typical Maxon motor data sheet, which is one of the very popular make of manufacturer of DC motor. They give you to this detail. This is why I have chosen this particular data sheet. So what it shows? Now coming to this particular curve. This is what is I discussed just now. So you see, it is actually related like this. It is actually related like this. In the bottom you see it is millinewton meter. So this is basically the torque output, and this direction, this one is speed in revolutions per minute, RPM, and torque, RPM and torque. They vary like this. Actually it is like this, but the region which is shown, we have just seen, is this one where we are interested in. What is this? This is recommended operating range where we are interested in. We are not interested in other regions also. For other region is this one, short term operation. Yes, you can work on this region also. This is for higher torque if you desire to take as an output. So this region also is okay, but not for longer period of operation. Continuous operation can be done in this region. Yes, it is not abrupt end over here and here. It is not shown in the data sheet because it is not recommended region, and it is not much of use going to such a high of a speed for this type of motor. So you simply trim this here, trim this here, and this red zone is actually the effective zone. Okay, so this is how it looks like for different. This is for a 6-watt motor. So this is the curve which was there. So I'll come little more ahead now. Okay, so let us say it is this motor, one of these motor. Maxon is one of the manufacturer who gives you too much detail into the data sheet also, in their data sheet also. So these are different makes of similar motor, maybe different models of particular motor series. So what all things it says, assigned power rating in watts. So different wattage is mentioned. Nominal voltage, that is 2 volt to 12 volt, 9 volt, all standard volt motors you will find, right up to 24 volt, which is industrial standard. 12 volts domestic appliances, 6 volt for toys and all you may see, 30 volts is for some exceptional application. Okay, so that is and no load speed, the one you saw just now. When you offload your motor totally, you will see this much of speed that should be reflected in your motor. Stall torque, when you stop the shaft, this is the maximum torque that motor can generate. Speed and torque gradient, this is the slope of that particular curve. This is given. No load current, when there is no load, this is the current, milliampere, that flows. Starting current, this may be very high. This is very useful when you design any motor, maybe a driver you are trying to choose from. Then in that case, starting current is the one which will float, even though for a very small period of time, your driver should be able to take up this current. This is the maximum current to say for normal operating condition. If it is not colliding or totally stalled, stall current will definitely be even more, but no load current is there and starting current is there. Thermal resistance of the coil is given. These will come back to this data sheet once again, where these parameters are also used. Even moment of inertia of this is also given in this data sheet later. Okay, maximum efficiency, torque constant, Km, value, that Km is torque constant of this motor is given, speed constant is given, mechanical time constant, rotor inertia. These parameters will again encounter when we will start doing controls. We'll model DC motor again. So we'll discuss these parameters once more, even thermal parameters. So that's all I think. With this data sheet, I think most of the things related is discussed.